Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the McLaren P1.
This is XP7, which is the car, for instance, we took it to the desert and drove it through Death Valley on horrendous racetracks out there. This car has been around the world about 5 times, been in the Arctic Circle, in the desert doing hot and cold weather testing. It's been on racetracks.
Can we summarise it in one word? Is it a bitch?
It's a classic.
Is it well used?
Yes, by some of the worst people you could think of.
Is it the girl that sits in the corner of the pub?
It might be.
We're being unkind to it. It still has a market value of £1 million, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's still a hell of a car. But this particular example is all we've got left, really. I mean, we've done well. All of the cars have been sold. We've got very, very few cars around us.
So how many XPs exist?
Currently now, I'm not too sure. Not very many, because some of those XPs were crash test cars as well. So I know of probably 2 that are runners, but this is basically a runner that we have tried to build into something that is production representative. We've got PP3 here, which is a later built pre-production car, which is a little bit more representative interior wise.
Talk me through this engine and gearbox. So the block, everyone says, oh, it's just a 12C engine. Okay, there's commonalities, but it's a different block, it's a different part number, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be. On paper it looks similar, 3.8 litre twin turbo, but in actual fact the combined torque that this powertrain is giving out is way greater than the 12C. It's 903 brake horsepower. It's just a different level. So the block itself, yes, it's still got the same capacity on the internal combustion engine as the 12C, but we have bolted a rather powerful E-motor, electric motor, to that. More or less, if you'd imagine where a starter motor goes. Yeah. So we don't have a starter motor, we've got an E-motor instead. So the electric motor works as the starter, and it also generates torque as well, which then adds to the petrol engine, drives through the gearbox.
That's quite clever, isn't it?
It's very clever because it keeps weight down. Why have 2 things that can do the same job?
If your Kurz system fails, that means you can't start your engine there, doesn't it?
But no, not really. No, same as if your battery fails, you wouldn't be able to start a car through a starter motor either.
Good answer.
Same difference.
So it's a different casting.
Yep.
But is it a different casting purely because you've got the E-motor grafted on the side, or because actually you need more strength in the block?
Yeah, both.
Both.
The coupling of the internal combustion engine with bigger turbos. So again, on the face of it, with turbos, you're using turbos to generate increased torque and power from the petrol engine. But to get out of turbo lag world, this is where the clever stuff happens with the hybrid system on this car. So we obviously add the power and torque from the electric motor to give additional headline performance. But where the car is totally transformed is by using the hybrid power, the electric motor power, to torque fill. So
that's the phrase, torque. See, I've been using augmentation, which is terribly Dickensian, but torque fill is I love that phrase. So that's a McLarenism, isn't it?
I don't know.
So just tell me, you basically sit there with Excel and you go, we'd like torque there.
Yeah.
And you can just do it.
This is where my pedal is going to be, and this is what I want for torque.
So do you think that the phrase turbo lag doesn't apply to this car?
Oh, absolutely.
So you have no concept?
So I've even recently driven some of the most highly regarded V12 normally aspirated engines, and to put it all back into context, because sometimes you lose sight of what really is the ultimate. And the throttle response, the torque delivery that you have with this beats absolutely anything I've ever experienced. The only thing that comes close is a Formula 1 car.
Is the Corsa tyre standard? Is it the only tyre?
Yeah, the Corsa tyre is the standard.
Is there a winter tyre for it?
You can fit a winter tyre on there,
and
I've driven on that in Sweden.
What's 900 horsepower on a winter tyre like?
It's quite fun actually. Yeah, it's good. You'd love it. It'd be sideways all the time.
Don't pigeonhole me.
I know what you like.
I'm not generic. It's not the widest rear tyre, is it?
No, it's not. But this is a road car. Yeah. So you drive a car like this on the road with wide tyres.
Follows canvas.
It follows canvas, feels horrible, it rains, it's a nightmare. So, this is actually, this is a real road car. If we wanted to build a racing car, we would have built a racing car, which would have been different. This is about as close as you're going to get to Formula 1 performance on the road, but with a lot of road thought gone into it.
So you could, if you were so inclined, you could run this like a 12C?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got on the dashboard all the modes, normal sport and track, same as you're used to.
Radio?
It's got radio, it's got sat nav. You'll be pleased to know it's got
heated seats.
It's got heated seats. It's got HVAC.
Has it?
It's got air conditioning. Yeah, which is very handy actually.
Now look, chassis-wise, have we got the same basic front to rear, horizontally linked system as a 12C?
Yes, high level. This has got a very similar suspension system to the 12C. So there are no anti-roll bars. The corners are connected hydraulically. We have adaptive damping.
Have you got that same anti-squat bar at the rear that's fitted on the 12C? Because there is
no.
You've not got that.
No. So no Z bar.
There's
on
nothing.
This car. But the difference with
Z bar, sorry.
So the difference with this is that a lot of the actual heave spring rate is controlled hydraulically. So that's where the big difference starts to come in. So not only are we springing the car more hydraulically, but we can also adjust the ride height of the car. So in normal sport and track modes, you're at this fixed ride height. Normal mode in this car is quite similar in ride to, say, sport mode in the 12C.
Yeah.
So still actually way more comfortable than most
and you can get
cars.
over a sleeping policeman in London?
We've got vehicle lift. You can have in all modes as well. You can just lift it, but in fact this is a sensible ride height for just normal road driving and speed humps and so on. When you go up the modes to sport to track, you're stiffening the damping system, similarly to the way we do it on the 12C. You're changing the active aero configuration. On the powertrain mode, you're also changing the gear shift character and so on. But the real game changer with this car is the race mode button. So you can press the race mode button. The transition takes about 30 seconds to take place, but it's quite a transformation. So it's a massive hydraulic event underneath the skin. The car lowers 50 mil. The spring rates stiffen considerably because you're really now wanting to control your aero platform.
Give me a percentage, roughly.
I think it's something like 300%, but it's not a fixed number because it's...
And bringing the front of the car that much lower makes that dirty great big splitter start to work.
You bring the splitter into play, but to balance that, we have active aero flaps inside the diffusers just behind the front splitter to control that, to stop the car being too pitch sensitive on braking, for instance, and at high speed. But to balance that, when you lower it, we extend the rear wing to about this high. It looks cool, but it actually really does do something. We generate something like 600 kilos of downforce, which is, up there with, current GT3 racing cars. All of that downforce going through, road tyres, a big challenge. But again, working through that with Pirelli, we've come up with very strong constructions that still give you some ride comfort, but can live with that downforce and the cornering loads and performance we're putting in.
Okay, and for the avoidance of doubt, because there's been so much forum conversation about this, I don't actually care that you've not released a lap time. It's kind of done business. It's up to you guys, rightly or wrongly. That's your decision. But there are lots of rumours about the fact that the car wouldn't complete an entire lap with the KERS, and that's the reason why you've not released the time. Can you debunk that now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That was the whole reason for going there. That was our main reason for going to Nordschleife, was to actually be able to tune it so that we could do that. It is one of the areas I'm most amazed by, because it is probably one of the biggest challenges for a new small car company to take on a hybrid powertrain project. And it is one of those things that really came together, for me anyway, quite last minute. As I explained, we had dynamic mules of various shapes and sizes for quite some time that I was working on. And it was relatively late in the project that we bolted in the proper latest and greatest hybrid system, and literally tuning it so that it just does that lap. You can make it last longer if you want and get less out of it, or get the maximum out of it over that particular lap profile. So yeah, it does it, and it does it well, and it delivers full punch all the way down the straight. You arrive at the end of the straight there at a decent pace. It makes the that left kink at the end of the straight a bit of a challenge.
But it is flat, that kink?
Yeah, just. Yeah. Not every day of the week. Yeah.
This is extremely exciting, as you can imagine, because not many people have been able to drive the P1. Let me tell you how we're going to do this, because as ever it's quite rushed. We're going to go out on the road and experience the car on the street, because I think we have to do that, don't we? So we'll drive it on the road, but ordinarily I'm not going to try and go fast, because I suspect I'll get arrested and I don't want to get banged up in Abu Dhabi. It wouldn't be good. Then we're going to come back, and then the sun's going to go down, and then they're going to light up the Aston Martin circuit like they do for the F1 race, and we're going to test the car on the circuit at night, which is going to prove quite testing for JF, who's behind the lens, and Neil as well. So the video is going to go from light to dark, but I just can't wait. So what can I say? In the softest damper mode, the car rides pretty well. It's firm. I can't really tell you much more than that, because Abu Dhabi's roads are so smooth that it's difficult to say. On a British B road, I'm sure it's going to be busy, is the word, but you know, what do you expect? Steering really nice and pleasantly light. I like it. I'm looking forward to feeling that as it weights up with speed on the circuit. I think that could be really pleasant. The car physically doesn't feel that big, and that's quite interesting for me. This traditionally the hypercar, supercar type of vehicle, he must be so bored listening to this, but he has to be there for insurance reasons. Traditionally, that type of car has carried with it an almost deliberate level of intimidation. You know, it's big, it's wide, you can't see out the bloody thing. You know, you get in it, and the irony is you don't want to drive it very fast because it's terrifying. Well, with this car, it's different. The scuttle is really low, like the 12C. You can see out of it. You know, the wing mirrors work really, really well. The rear view mirror is not as pointless as you might think. I'm not intimidated, and physically it doesn't feel big. I feel I can sit it between the lanes and not worry about the size of my hips. So I suppose for me, that's the most important thing about the road manners. It's not a car that initially intimidates you until you kind of give it half throttle and then wonder why your eyes don't work properly, but that's another issue altogether. So yeah, for pootling around, you can really pootle in the P1. I'm sitting in a traffic jam in a 900 horsepower twin turbocharged vehicle in Abu Dhabi. I didn't think this would be my first experience of the P1. I thought it'd be on a track, roaring away. But this is the ultimate test of this car, isn't it?
It's a road car. We do racing cars as well. They race in Formula 1 and in GT racing. This is a very, very fast road car. It has to do this. If it can't do this, no one will buy it. So first and foremost, it has to be able to drive in a city, in a quite challenging city at that. And later, it does also have to drive on the track, and you'll see that too.
So this is XP7, as we said. It's a prototype vehicle. So in terms of MVH, it's a bit noisier than a customer car's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, this is the car that's been up in the Arctic Circle, in the desert. You know, hot, cold, on race tracks. It's been really used and abused. So, you know, one or two of the interior panels are missing. We've got a lot of logging kit in this car, which is creating noise paths, and there's a lot of flimsy things that are bolted in here that are obviously not standard.
Now, I have to say, my driving impressions are that from low speed, it's just as easy to drive as 12C, isn't it? It doesn't feel any different, actually. The way that the throttle pedal reacts, the brake pedal, all feels entirely natural and very, very manageable. There's no suggestion of what lurks beneath it, frankly, at low speed. Has that taken a long time?
Yeah. From the concept to date now, we spent as much time and effort on the calibration of and tuning of all of your controls at low speed as we did on track and on the limit. So steering, brake pedal, feel and response, throttle pedal, feel and response. Really important in traffic. Obviously really important on the track, but both are equally valuable.
So when I pull away now,
yeah.
How much electric power am I using there?
Well, you're using a small amount just to immediately fill the torque gap, or take away the turbo lag, if you like. But then once you're into your throttle pedal travel, you're not asking for the full amount of torque and horsepower from the combined petrol engine and e-motor. So effectively you're then immediately really just then starting to use petrol engine. If you're using, for instance, probably a typical recharging situation would be like about 4,000 RPM, mid-throttle pedal, that would then start to regenerate the battery power and replenish that.
Is there any point where it's just combustion engine and no electricity at all?
Once you've got potentially a steady throttle pedal, so constant throttle pedal position, say mid gas pedal. Like I said, if you're in, say, in fourth gear, 4,000 RPM,
just held the throttle,
50% throttle pedal. In fact, what you're doing, not only are you not using the
you're charging
it, and you'll see that with a couple of arrows as it's like a chevron on that charge bar there, and you'll see that that's charging and replenishing the battery. So you'll still be able to accelerate and drive the car. It won't slow the car down. You've still got acceleration left, but in fact, because you're not asking for the full combined torque, it's taking the opportunity just to fill the battery up. So you don't have to brake, you don't have to do anything like that.
The modes we've got for street driving, you know, Abu Dhabi's not the best place to come and drive because the roads are either straight, covered in dust, or in town like we are now. The ride in the softest suspension mode, which is normal, it feels firm, but it doesn't feel crazy at all. It's not crashy. The suspension's all rubber bush, so you know there is compliance there. And you've said that in terms of your strategy, it's similar to a 12C in its sport mode. It's the most comfortable mode of this car.
Yeah, correct.
And then we go up to is it track mode next?
Well, you've got sport left, and then you've got track after that.
Okay, so it's sport then track.
Yeah, so normal sport tracks, same concept as the 12C, just moved up a notch basically in terms of the ride and handling. So you firm up the ride, but you don't just do that for the sake of it. As the ride gets firmer into sport and track, you're also adding a bit more stiffness and control and support in cornering, adding a bit more of a direct handling feel, a bit more of a nimble feel as well.
And the steering weight's changing?
Steering weight goes up slightly, but primarily the biggest change in the steering weight is when you're going from very low city speeds and parking through as you pick up road speed.
And that's happening regardless of what mode you're in?
Yeah, it does.
Because at low speed, I really like this. This feels
nice and fluid, not too
I'm
heavy.
now in automatic mode. I mean, apart from the fact that there is this thing lurking behind me, which is suggesting it's got a lot of power, it's very, very... not ordinary is the wrong word, okay? But it's...
usable?
Yeah. I love all the nakedness at the back as well. I love the fact you can see its gizzards, don't you?
It's gizzards. Is that a technical term?
Yeah, it's a bit like, you know...
Is that a hydraulic gizzard or electrical gizzard or...
It's like a it's like a very, very sexy lady wearing a short skirt. It's Sharon Stone, isn't it? That's the automotive equivalent of the camel toe. I have a real problem with this car though, driving slowly. I know it's got 900 horsepower and I just want to give it some thwap. And I just know I'm going to end up in jail if I do.
But you're driving it to a racetrack, so you can, in a minute, we'll be there.
I know. So I've just got to be patient, haven't I? Can I give it a little bit of tap? And if I was just to sort of, a little bit.
I'm sure you can handle it. So luckily we've got the brakes to match that.
Oh.
And that is important.
Boys and girls, it is astonishing. Whoa. I can't wait to have a go in this. Am I allowed to spank this thing on a circuit?
Do what you like. That's what it's built for.
You could record a 2-hour film on the technical detail of this car alone. Its 3.8 litre motor is fed by 2 larger turbos than the 12C. They work at 2.4 bar to give 737 horsepower and 531 foot-pounds. The electric motor adds 179 horsepower and 192 foot-pounds. Dry weight is 1,395 kilograms, curb around 1,450. Front brakes are 390mm carbon ceramics by Akabono with a unique silicon carbide facing, 380mm at the rear.
Acceleration is from the world of Tron, really. 0 to 125 miles an hour in 6.8 seconds, 0 to 186 in 16.5 seconds. I'll say that again. 0 to 186 miles an hour in 16.5 seconds. Top speed is limited to 217 miles an hour, and it'll do 6 miles on electric power alone. I quite like all that. In full aero mode, sitting 50mm lower than usual, and with the rear wing deployed 300mm, it offers 600 kilograms of downforce at 160 miles an hour. The car is a study in carbon weight saving because the electrical systems add around 200 kilograms. The front screen is thinner than the 12 seats, the brakes are lighter than normal ceramics, the cabin is bare, the seats are lighter, and the occupants, well, they sit closer than in a 12C for better centre of mass. You could spend hours looking at the thing. Really, hours.
Okay, peeps, it's the moment that I've been waiting for a long time. This is the P1 on a track. This thing is a whole new ball game. So I'm going to start just being in race mode because that's the mode that counts. I've got 916 horsepower and this thing weighs 1,395 kilograms. It is a whole new thing and it's a very, very good thing. It's extraordinary. First of all, the powertrain. Well, they call it torque fill because it has an effective power band of about 7,000 RPM. It's just wowzers the whole time. I've got the traction control on at the moment, but it allows me quite a bit of slip. Steering is just lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Coming onto the main straight now. Braking performance, it's just different world. You lean on the ABS, then you find this other extra bit of braking. Wow. I've got quite a bit of slip, as you can see, even with it in this mode. Traction, you just come out of the corners, boot, and just go. Straight line, for me, better than a Veyron. Feels much faster than a Veyron. And it feels agile and light. And he just goes. It absolutely screams. The weight distribution is spot on. I haven't driven a car like this before. I really haven't, because there isn't a car like this. It's a different league even to a 918. The tyre's a limiting factor in race mode because I've got aero grip now as well, which is a whole new thing. Wow. It is a new thing. It's a new thing. Wow. Okay, peeps. Now I'm gonna do something I've always wanted to do. I'm gonna turn the traction control off on a car with 916 horsepower. Okay? Okay. Look at that! 916 horsepower! You can even just sort of back it in if you want to. Oh my lord. Where have you been all my life, P1? This is a new thing. You shouldn't be able to do this. I mean, back it in. 916 horsepower. Come on. It's just a new thing. Oh, back it in, watch. Just back it in, the chassis got balance, drift, go, and 900 horsepower. This thing is a freak, it's genius. I've not driven a car like it. I have to just be quiet. I'll do some voiceover. I'm just consumed by how good this thing is. And breathe. And breathe. And breathe.
It's a weak excuse, I know, but talking as you spank a P1 is quite difficult. And on that final smoky lap, it suddenly dawned on me that I might not ever drive a P1 again, and I wanted to enjoy it, not just jabber at a camera. This car is easier to drive than a 12C. Its great big turbocharged engine has throttle response to rival a Ferrari F12. It has an open differential, but clever use of the rear brakes replicates an LSD, and it feels completely mechanical and intuitive to drive and drift. Brake steer means you can pile into turns, trail braking all the way, and the only limiting factor is the tyre. It's a brilliant street track combo from Pirelli, but eventually it has to give in to all that energy. And the toys, well, they're great fun too. Manual DRS to stall the rear wing, and manual I-Pass to give that Knight Rider turbo boost. Shame I didn't have the spare mental capacity to use them. You see, the P1 is just that fast.
It's a whole new thing, guys. It's just a whole new thing. Because it's a car that can be driven in a straight line and provide the most extraordinary speed and accuracy and responsiveness and just raw performance. And then it's also a car that you can grab by the scruff and throw around. I can't believe I'm saying this, but you can throw it around. It's a whole new thing, and I'm slightly embarrassed that I'm saying that, because I'm sure everyone thinks, well, the 918 was the new thing. You said that about 3 months ago, but such is the rate of progress. That is a new thing. You know, I've not driven a car that can do that, because until now I don't think there is a car that can do that. I think we need to do some voiceover, because I think my onboard was just absolute pants. I think I was just yelping and squealing, but there we go. That was the experience of a lifetime, frankly. What a car. Can I go and get drunk now?